From the campus of Volunteer State Community College, this is Inside Politics.
Hi, I'm Nancy Hoskins.
And I'm Dwayne Carter, and welcome to another edition of Inside Politics.
Well, Sumner County is ranked among the top 10 fastest growing counties in Tennessee. It's an area including Gallatin, Hendersonville, White House, Portland, and of course much more. Joining us today is the man who oversees much of the progress there, Sumner County Executive Hank Thompson. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I always enjoy being here.
Well, with so much growth in Sumner County, there's been a real need to build some additional schools, a prospect delayed for some time now, but now everything is a go. Tell us about the plans and the need for these schools.
Well, of course, you have to remember that the school budget is 80% of the county budget. Right. You know, we have the sheriff and we have the courthouse and things like that, but another program. But 80% of our budget is for schools, so that's our top priority, and that's where we concentrate. Well, being a fast-growing county like several counties in Middle Tennessee, it's hard to keep up with. And growth is something you have to plan for and keep up with. And the best bang for your buck is education. There's no question about it. And that's where we feel and the county commission feels. But it used to be that the school board would come in and they'd have a list of schools, and we'd like to build a school here and here, and the county commission would say, no, we think you need to build a school over here, and it'd get political, and then they'd argue and they'd go back and forth. One thing we did that was been different is that we formed a task force. I got 50 people roughly together, and I got planners from the 8 cities, school board members, county commissioners, citizens, and we got developers, people that were building and causing this growth. Where are you planning on building? Where are the plans do you see? Where do we see the growth going, which directions and everything? And we called it a task force, and they met, and we came up with where did we do building last, which schools did we build additions on, we listed that, we brought it all together, right. And it was just a great program as task force. And so they came up with a 9 school, new schools, and a list, and a 9 school addition priority, and the school board passed it unanimously, and the county commission passed it unanimously. To refinance our debt service and to go on the bond market and to build a $125 million building program. Now, that's unanimous vote, folks, by school board and county commission. That's never been done before. That was worked out with all the people that are involved in it. And we plan to continue to keep that task force in place and continue on looking for sites and where different growth is going. So it's an ongoing thing. But this will take care of us catch us up to where we've been behind. You know, growth is a good thing, but it brings some things with it too that Absolutely. You got to. If you don't have any growth, you die. But you got to have a good planned growth. And I think the school system. Now you'll never satisfy everybody. There'll always be. I know we have some people say we want to eliminate every portable classroom we've got. Well, we're fixing to eliminate a lot. We'll never eliminate every one of them because there will be some area that'll jump out ahead of the other. Right. So in reality, you won't eliminate, but we're way ahead of where we have been. We've got a good plan, and the next thing I'm fixing to do is have a task force for the libraries. We're building new libraries. We've got to start a task force together from all the cities where the libraries are, and sit down and have the same plan. How many employees do we need? What do we look like the electric bills are going to be, and start planning ahead for the future budget. See, we built a jail several years ago, and we didn't sit down and plan how many people we had to hire to run the jail. We thought we took like a 200 cell jail and built a 600 and said we was going to run it with the same people. They built the building and then just like, well, we had to hire 80 new people. That's a lot of money. Yeah. A lot of planning in your budget and your tax dollars. So we don't want to do that again. And I think we're doing a pretty good job on the schools. As a matter of fact, we won an award last night for the Greater Nashville Regional Council banquet that is 13 counties, regional organizations made up of 13 county executives and mayors like myself, and 67 mayors. And they voted us, this task force that we put together, we won an award for that. So we were real proud of that. So it's a good plan. So I think we're doing the best we can. Now, there's other things also with the growth, you know, besides school's the number one priority, but we've got infrastructure with roads and things we've got to work on too.
And we'll talk about some of that, but back to the schools. Where's the first one? When's it going to start? And
Well,
when will kids be actually moving schools?
Okay, one of them has already started. Well, you're probably going to end up with most of them hitting them in 2009. You just can't build a school overnight. Of course, we're building the middle school, the elementary school at Station Camp Creek, and the building addition on the Indian Lake. It's the growth there. There's 2 schools in Portland, I believe, and we just recently bought property from down in Hendersonville. There'll be either elementary and middle school, I believe, in the Drakes Creek area down in Hendersonville. It seemed like there's one over toward White House. I can't remember all of them, but 2009 will be the first 3. 2 of them have already started. The Station Camp Creek will be the first one, and Indian Lake Addition. And then the additions will kick in at different ones also. So it's an ongoing process that'll be done, you know, over the next 5 years, I would say.
Briefly, before we leave that subject, you mentioned in dealing with all this growth and infrastructure, your relationship with the other mayors in the area. Nashville has a new mayor. What does that mean to you? It's a different county, but you do still work together.
No, it's very important. And growth is because years ago you didn't worry about who was elected mayor in Nashville. But now, like I mentioned, the Greater Nashville Regional Council was 13 counties. There's Commuter Rail, which is a 5-county region organization, and you've got the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is another 9-county organization. So the mayor of Nashville is on that. And plus, I'm on the board of 4 counties, Homeland Security, where we get money for natural disasters and for terrorism, things like that. And Mayor Purcell and myself, and Williamson County, Mayor Rogers Anderson, and then the mayor of, and from Wilson County is Mayor Fox from Lebanon. So we're on this region having to do with the funds as they come and how they are dispersed to the 4 county areas. So a very important board. So Carl Dean will be a very important key in that, and them being the most populated, they're a very key part of it. So we all have to work together. I have met him, talked to him. He's just now getting his feet wet. But we were talking yesterday about we need to make him chairman of the Homeland Security Executive Board because Purcell was before. We just need to talk to Dean and see if he's ready to take on that responsibility. But it's very important that we work together, and we do work very well.
Well, recently another hot topic has been the Music City Star commuter rail service, and it's celebrating its first anniversary. Yes. So how has the rail impacted Sumner and other counties it runs through, and what's next for the Music City Star? Okay,
well, it took 10 years to get the one built in what we call the Eastern Corridor from Lebanon into Nashville, 32 miles. So it takes a while. All the federal grant money and so forth that you have to have. And so next, there's 6 corridors actually. And the northeast corridor is the one that goes to Goodlettsville, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. 27 miles, I believe it is. And we're next to work on. Now, it took 10 years to do the last one. It'd probably take 10 years to get this one done. Sure. But we've learned a lot from what we did on the eastern corridor that's going to help us with the northeast corridor. And one of those things is, like, as we grow, we've been requiring these developments around the railroad track to, as we rezone them and so forth, to put in land for train stations, where in the eastern corridor they had to buy the land. So we're already in the process of doing that. Now, we've just paid for a federal study to be made on the northeast corridor. And when you do that, you have to study not just for commuter rail, but for buses and bus lines and so forth, to see what the best way is for mass transit. Some areas it may not be commuter rail. It may be some other form of mass transit. But anyway, we've just paid the city of Hendersonville, county, city of Gallatin, Goodlettsville, and Nashville paid a local share to a federal grant at a cost around $1 million. We paid $50,000. And that takes 18 months, and it's just fixed. We've signed the contract. And that study has to be done as the first step to go apply for federal money for the Music City Star. Now, the Music City Star, you must remember, is for the future. Right. It took us 10 years. It may be 10. I probably, I may not even be around. It'll be my grandchildren. But if you don't start doing it now and preparing, the city of Nashville and the region here, if we're going to be an international area or a metropolitan city like Nashville wants to be, which you take the train station, lands right down there by that beautiful opera, what is it, Shimmerhorn, or the new place. Right. Here you've got this beautiful place. You've got to have mass transit to be a real city, and that's what Nashville wants, and that's what the area wants.
Now, do you think the high gas prices have impacted its popularity?
Very much so, very much so. And way back we said this is going to happen. It's going to make it even more feasible, and more people are going to want to ride because gas prices are going up, and that's exactly what's happening. You're right. Now, the mass transit and commuter rail, so many things having to do with just safety, taking cars off the road. It's not the ultimate answer. I mean, it's part of it. You can only build so many lanes on the interstate, on I-65. Sure. But it's part of the answer. It'll take care of a lot. It does away with parking problems downtown in Nashville. And in our case up here in the Northeast Corridor, we're planning on using that to get students out of the Nashville area to commute to Ball State. And one of the stations will be right here near your campus. So that is a big factor in the commuter rail for the Northeast Corridor. And we made L.A. Green, the developer who's developing this commercial property, he set aside property for a train station to be right there. Then you have a short shuttle, but that's the way the commuter rail is. So it's going to be for the future, but if you don't start making these plans right now, and that's what people can understand. And as far as pollution, how do you put a dollar figure on the environment that it saves, without having 1,000 cars every morning on the road? Right. Right. And if you haven't commuted, which I drove back and forth to Nashville for 25 years, just the wear and tear mentally and physically on your body with cars go zooming by, and then I went to a meeting Monday morning when it rained. It took me an hour and a half to go downtown, where it usually takes 20, 30 minutes. And so it is so many factors that the commuter rail offers that's hard to put a dollar figure on. It'll always be subsidized. It'll never carry its own weight and cover its total cost. It's about, like the Eastern Corridor is about a $3 million budget. I think the tickets, fare and all will probably cover half of that, $1 million, $1.5 million is what our projection. You'll always have to subsidize. But you subsidize the highways too. Highways don't bring any revenue in either to help transportation. So a lot of people say, well, it needs to cover its own costs. It never will do that. It'll always have to be subsidized in some way.
Well, another important issue that people have been facing in Sumner County lately has to do with the drought and the early freeze this spring.
Worst we've ever had.
Yeah, it's been awful. Sumner County is coming to the rescue of area farmers, agreeing to spend $100,000 to bring in emergency hay, water. Tell us about that plan. Yeah,
that's a good plan. I've been working with the University of Tennessee with our Agricultural Extension Service. And it first came to my attention, Montgomery County was looking at doing something like this. And that's where it first came to my attention, what we need to be doing something too. So we got with the Agricultural Extension Service, and Mike McDonald and Senator Black, our legislators, they got involved in it too. And because I think a legislator is the one that took the lead in Montgomery County. And Montgomery County is about the same population as we are. And at first we said, well, Montgomery County's got a lot more cattle. Well, if you look at the figures, no, they don't. We've got as many cattle in Sumner County as they do in Montgomery County, which surprised me even. So anyway, we've got a major problem. And Mike McDonald put it a good way. We had a tornado come through here.
Right.
Hit y'all's campus and hit right in the middle. That was a natural disaster, and everybody pitched in. Well, this drought is a natural disaster. You got to look at it the same way, because you have a lot of people will say, Well, now why are you subsidizing the farmer, helping him? I run a bakery. I'm not, the cost of bread's high. You're going to help me, or you're going to help me in my garage. Mufflers are high now. Where do you draw the line when government will you help? But this is a natural disaster, and we felt like it was important. And agriculture is an important part of our county. Well, right when we got ready to talk about this, and you have to take this money out of the general fund. That's not easy to do when you're trying to build schools, for instance.
Right.
It's a tough decision. So we talked about $100,000. Well, Montgomery County, when it got to their county commission, they voted it down. They didn't do it. They talked about doing it, but when it got right down to it, they didn't do it.
Are you the only county right now?
Well, we decided to go ahead, and then Dixon decided to put in $50,000. So there's only 2 counties that I know of right now. There may be others. So we've got it all set up. On what we'll do is we'll be paying for the freight, and they'll be bringing this hay out of Texas and Oklahoma, and they're setting up different kind, getting the best price. Got 5 locations where you'll be able to, and I think they're meeting today at the Agricultural Extension to fine tune where these places you can go and get the hay, and that'll be in the papers and announced. And they've already got a list of farmers that were interested, the Extension Service, that have said they will buy hay. And so what we will do, we'll buy hay, pay the transportation costs, and that will get it down more like in the $50 range that farmers can afford.
I was just about to ask you, what are you hearing from the
Yeah.
farmers
Yeah,
concerning the relief?
we've had enough people interested that we've talking about 6,000 rows. Wow. 6,000 rows. And so I think you can get 32 on a truck. I've had a lot of these figures thrown by me in meetings. I think you can get 32 on a truck, and you want to bring them to 5 central places, and then you have to have people to unload them and to help the farmers load it up. So it takes some money, but we've got enough interest and a list already prepared for people that are ready to pay their money, and there's some banks working with us to do this. So it's going real smooth, and the Agricultural Extension Service is doing a great job. And they know more about it than I do, but I have to sign off on it as the final thing, and I'm really satisfied with what they've done so far. So we'll be putting this in the next week. After today, they're supposed to report. I'd say next week we'll be starting bring the hay in.
You're also doing something with water.
Yes, water. A lot of people have a problem with water. And Ken Widener, I don't know if y'all have ever had Ken on here before, have you? He's our emergency management director. You need to have him on a program. He's emergency management director that was ahead when we had the tornado,
Right.
emergency services. And Ken's got a group of volunteers, and they have set up some, we've got 12 volunteer fire departments. And they've got some of these pumper trucks that we can pump water out of the lake. So we've given phone numbers in different locations where farmers need any water. They can call these numbers and get to, or if they want to call the county administration building, and they can get them the number to go and where they live and the area, and the emergency service will help them with the water, fill up their tanks. So we got a water program going too.
Well, let's talk about the new county archives building. The county commission has given approval to build a new archives building behind the county administration building. Now, for those who may not know, what will it house, and what obstacles have to be overcome to get approval for that building? Well,
it's already been approved. All that's really, it's been going on for almost a year and a half. Right. The decision whether to do that, with the location where to do that. And archives is part of it, but it's a small part of it. It's actually storage for records. And archives are historical records after a certain period of time. But you have working storage of records also, like a register of deeds has, or the tax assessor has something and they file it, but somebody comes right up the next year and needs something. So you've got really 2 kind of records. Archives is after it gets at a certain age, they keep historical and preserve things. So the archives was just part of it. But anyway, that's already been approved by the county. They felt like it was not worth paying the money to do the archives up at the City Square. It's going to cost $400,000 or $500,000 more in money, of the county's money, to put the archives up there, and you're still going to have to build a storage building down here to solve this problem at the administration building. 60% of the records are created at the administration building, 40% of them are created up there at the courthouse in the criminal judge. So we worked at keep putting it all together, but you couldn't. So the decision's been made, the plan's been drawn up, and they'll go out for bid, as a matter of fact, and we'll get a bid back within a month and see what the cost is, and then we may have to trim something here and see how the cost. So that decision has been made, but now the archives are very important, and somebody needs to be staffing and working with these storage. And see, at the administration building, I've got them up in the attic, I've got them down in the basement. We have license plates that come in by a trailer truckload. Be amazed at the people come by and pick up what a job that is. So this storage building in the back that we plan on building all the time, we'll have these records right there with somebody there. Now you bring the archives down there and they can do it all in one place. And it will be a weather protected against tornadoes type of building that will protect the records better. And say like in Clarksville, when the tornado came through, it destroyed all their records, and we will make. Now you have a lot of stuff on computer stored at this place and down at the state, so you've got a lot of stuff covered, but some of the old actual paper records you don't have. And so we want to protect those in a weatherproof type of building as much as you can. So this construction of this will be there. And see, we already own the land and have the property down there, and we've got parking. And most of the people come to that building and do a lot of business anyway, so it just ended up making more sense. So that decision's already been made, and that's the way it'll go. But it was there was a lot of things that, a lot of facts got shifted and people had different opinions, but it all worked out, process.
I can't even keep track of my household paper, so I can't even imagine. Well, you mentioned earlier that all of this growth in the county does affect the infrastructure, like roads. One notable change for folks like me who live outside of Sumner County, when I first came here, coming back from our summer break, I got a little lost. I had to call my boss and say, help me, because of the completion of the Vietnam Veterans Extension.
Right.
How does that...
Isn't it nice?
It's really nice once you know where you're going.
Right.
How does that better connect you to the Hendersonville area, and how does that affect some of your local roads?
Well, it just, we've been waiting on that for years and years. It's really a lifeline. The next priority is 109 from I-65 all the way to I-40. And that's in the process now of buying right-of-way, engineering, and there'll be a bridge built across at Gallatin, the Cumberland River, a new bridge. So you'll have 4-lane all the way from that. So that'll be a connector that'll affect Gallatin and Portland greatly, because you'll have people diverting going that way instead of going through Nashville. Sure. So it will also lessen the much traffic that's going through White House and Portland in some of the areas, and Millersville. And so it affects your county, whatever you do about infrastructure. It'll add more one place, take away in another place. Sure. Mm-hmm. But anyway, and so you have to be ready to address that. And all that'll take place between, I'd say, 2012. Well, that sounds like a long ways off, but that's not as long. Well, meanwhile, now that you've opened up this 386, there's been about 3 subdivisions approved in the last week.
Absolutely. And
so now you've got to have these connector roads, and we've got to start making plans on how to do that. And we're doing that with a long-range plan and the roads, and we got to be careful not put a subdivision where we see a future road that needs to be a connector. So you just got to start planning right now. Oh, don't approve this because there needs to be a road go through there. So that's where we are, and we're even looking at putting a fee on development of so much per lot to go in a fund for infrastructure roads for the roads that are not the main thoroughfares. But so we're approaching that. See, we already have a fee on so much per lot that helps out, that goes to schools because of new development and new growth. Now we're looking at helping with roads. So it's a very important factor. Roads.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, one right out here by Vol State, a 300-foot stretch of St. Bias Road.
Blaze.
I'm sorry, Blaze. will have to be improved for Kennesaw Farms and Greensboro Village North, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, the plan. The plan was, and see some of that city, so I don't get involved as much as I do in the county roads, but St. Blaise is a very crooked road, you know, and it comes out right across from not the plantation. What am I trying to say? The big subdivision over here.
Kennesaw.
No, not Kennesaw, but across the road. Anyway, the last plantation, I can't think the name. Fairview.
Yes.
Okay, so that road right there is where St. Blaise comes now, and there's people that live on that old part of that road. So they want to have a light right there for the people coming out of Fairview and coming out of this old section. So, but then St. Blaise really moves over and comes down closer to Volunteer Campus, and there'll be another light and another connector right there. So there'll be two connectors real close. And there's something, and then there's a road right at where it makes a 90-degree turn in Kennesaw that'll connect those two. Mm-hmm. So you'll connect to the connector close to Vol State and that old St. Blaise. So right now they're working on that and trying to develop that part of it. And there may be some changes made right there, but they will be widening. It will be a new road coming out of Kennesaw right there.
Now I also understand that there's another premier development underway, Saunders Branch.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah, there's one. It's just unbelievable. You know, there's one on the river up at Castellan Springs that they've been in here. 600 homes on a beautiful 90-degree angle of the river where they're talking about a marina and a restaurant, and just they building now. This Habersham outfit built over in near Hilton Head in South Carolina, and now they're coming inland on the waterways. The one you're talking about, there's one that just passed on Jenkins Lane down here at Station Camp Creek, and that area between where they've opened 386, that area right there is just fixing to explode, and there'll be several of those subdivisions like you're talking about coming in there, and it's just that's why they got to have the connector. That's why you got to have looking at some more land for schools.
Sure. Because
you got to get ready for that. It's coming.
Clearly, I live in the wrong county. Well, real quick, we have just about a minute left. Do folks in the area worry about all of these new developments?
Sure,
because that does mean higher assessment of their homes and higher property taxes.
Well, you try to, we haven't had a tax increase. We've been able to manage and do good management with the school building program. And then the BEP program was changed in the school funding. After you build a school, then you got to operate it. And so that's another part of your tax dollar that you got to have. Well, the state did come through with a BEP formula that took care of a lot of the operating part of it. So we managed to be in good shape without tax. They don't want their taxes raised, but they want these roads built, want these different services. So sure, they worry about that, and it's a tremendous problem, balancing act you're trying to do all the time, the legislature and state legislature and the local government too. Absolutely. But people do worry about it, and you kind of wish everything could kind of slow down and stay the way it is, but you can't stop it. You got too good a quality of life. You just got to have a good plan to keep it under control. That's what we're trying to do.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Thompson. We appreciate it.
Thank y'all for having me. I always enjoy it.
Absolutely. If you would like more information on some of the topics that we have talked about today, you can log on to Sumner County website at sumnertn.org. You can also call Hank Thompson's office at 615-452-3604.
And up next on Inside Politics, we've heard from the head of the state Democratic Party. Next, we will sit down with the new head of the state Republican Party, Robin Smith.
Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next time.
For more information about the guest on this show, please visit our website at ballstate.edu/insidepolitics.